In our last segment, we took a look at the duties and obligations of officers and directors to their corporations. We also noticed that in the Model Business Corporation Act and in the Securities Acts, they did not use the term fiduciary, or they did not use the term stewardship in their definition of responsibilities. Only that officers and directors were to provide oversight and act in what they felt was the best interest of the corporation. Notice it says what they felt was in the best interest as opposed to what others might believe was in the best interest of the corporation. They didn't define this, and more accurately, frankly, if the officers and board gave each other and received stock option incentives or stock compensation incentives, was this the best interest of the corporation, or was this not in fact acting in their best interest? Because notice what the wording said. It's what they felt was the best interest of the corporation, and it might be in fact their best interest. In this segment, we're going to look at loyalty, fiduciary responsibility, and stewardship in the postmodern capitalist society. We will discuss these responsibilities whether your next position is as an in-house counsel professional of a multinational global corporation, or a legal or corporate compliance officer or risk management officer, whether you advise the company as an outside advisor, or even if you act in the capacity as a wealth manager over the assets of wealthy corporate executives, what we call their family offices. Just take a slight deviation, and I'd like to talk a little about what I consider the public from a corporate perspective. And in fact, it's really from a European perspective. In Europe, the sustainable value of the enterprise and the public interest are totally interconnected. When I lived in The Hague in the Netherlands, running the largest international English language legal business and tax division of Wolters Kluwer CCH, it was clear that by Dutch standards, our responsibility as managers and stewards was to many publics. The publics were our employees, our authors, that is what I'd call the supply chain, our vendors, our customers, our stakeholders, the bondholders, the stockholders, the community where we lived, and the government that we paid taxes to. In fact, the focus at Wolters Kluwer was that we were partners for life with all of these publics. And there's no better or clearer example of what happens when this fails if you take a look at General Motors in Detroit. When General Motors failed, it failed all the publics. And just a short diversion also from this, when you listen to Jane Gleason White in a more recent book, Rethinking Capitalism for the 21st Century. Jane Gleason White reminds us that increasingly the world is coming to realize that endless growth is limited by Earth's resources, and it comes at a huge price to the planet and to the human well-being. And then Jonathan Watts remarked, he's a journalist of course, that global diversity crisis is so severe that brilliant scientists, political leaders, eco-warriors, and religious gurus no longer can save us from ourselves. The military, in fact, are powerless. But there may be one less hope for life on Earth, and that is the next generation of professionals. Remember, you may be a member of a community of one of the largest economies in the world, working for one of the 51 largest multinational global corporations. I'd like to reemphasize that in our journey of discovery, we need to continually ask the critical question, who are we stewards over, and what are we fiduciaries of, as the world has changed over the past 50 years. Keep in mind once more that with the evolution of the global corporation, our objective is to create long-term value in an ethically sustainable manner so that stakeholders will value our services. Our evolution, as mentioned in your lifetime, will go from looking at share value as an obsolete concept to shared values as our objective in financial capitalism evolves to sustainable capitalism. So before we define, basically in a more narrow sense, these commonly understood terms of fiduciary, stewardship, and others, please put in the back of your mind the question of who we really are working for, and whether in your new positions within the global multinational corporation family, just because of their sheer magnitude and I'm talking about Google or Apple or Home Depot or Tata in India or Alibaba in China, you will, in your ethical practice within the corporation, really be stewards of your global community and society as a whole as you work within the modern corporation. So let's begin.